guys, without further ado, I want to get started. And, welcome to another Web Tennis Players Workshop live webcast. This is Brent, Abel, Web Tennis. And today's topic is titled Double Strategy, How Your Kick Serve Can Make Your Partner a Very Happy Camper. And what I've got for you today is we've got a double strategy where it's going to be your kick serve combined with your partner's fake poach. And we're going to kind of work through the benefits of that and really how that typically gets some kind of an easy ball for your partner then to go ahead and put away. So your kick serve ends up making your partner look really, really good. But before we get started on that, I want to introduce our special guest today, unannounced special guest today, Jim Mclennan, Essential Tennis Instruction. And as many of you know, Jim is a long-time friend of mine. I've learned a lot from Jim about not only playing tennis, but about teaching tennis. He and I both come from the same foundation from Tom Stowe. Jim got with Tom way before I did. And so I was fortunate to be able to, pick Jim's brain apart in terms of what did Tom mean by this and that. And he's really been a big influence to my game, as I mentioned, and to my teaching. And Mac, glad that you're with us today.
And glad to be here. It's fun to hear all the names from all around Salem, Oregon. I'm enjoying the screenshot on the court. Brent, are you at the net or are you the server in this one?
I am the videographer. I'm up behind court 4 at the Berkeley Tennis Club on a heavy-duty construction scissor lift.
Really?
So,
well, it's a pretty good camera angle.
It's a great camera angle. We did this for the Pacific Coast Seniors this year, and you know that area between the front and the back courts of the Berkeley Tennis Club.
Mm-hmm.
We the sponsor this year, I'm embarrassed to say I've forgotten the construction company's name. I will get that out there when I publish the replay. But we had a construction company as a sponsor this year for the Pacific Coast Seniors, and they gave us a scissor lift that Steve Cornell and I figured out how to lift it up and get it up above the top of the fence and be able to shoot the camera angle straight down. And we did. I was kind of the play-by-play guy, and he was the color announcer on it. And
wow,
it was really a lot of fun, and something I think that you and I would enjoy doing as well sometime. I think more of as kind of an instructional thing. Steve and I were doing it more as just kind of senior tennis play-by-play. But I think this is something that you and I ought to think about for something in the future.
Well,
but
it's the same camera angle you see on TV, and yeah, I like it. And that's the teaching court up there on the right.
No. We're actually in between. The clubhouse is back behind the court. So the teaching court is up to the left.
Really?
So that's court.
Oh, I see. That's that wooden walkway. It
Yes.
looked at first like it was.
Right.
I got it.
Right. You think that's court 3 there? That's okay. So
yeah.
So the clubhouse is back there behind this court, and the teaching court is up to the left. So. Well, anyway, so Jim, listen, thanks for being with us today. You are unannounced guest, and I really appreciate you taking some time with us today. And I want to leave a little time at the end after we're done with this strategy tip, where you can tell us what you've got in terms of your new course, Master the Kick Serve 2. These 3 new videos you've got, these 3 free videos, and then the course. But let's dive into this, Jim, and the first thing I want to do is kind of get some definitions going. And Mac, here's my definition of a kick serve. I think there's really been a big mystery and a big kind of a big deal about a kick serve, and that it's something different than anything more than just a really high quality top spin, high bouncing second serve. Can you add anything more to what you might define as a kicker or a kick serve?
No, I think this is pretty good, and especially when you say that it has more upspin than a normal second serve that sort of has a version of side spin on it. So that even the way you drew it with the yellow on the screen, it's not curving to the player's forehand, but really trying to make them commit to either run way out of court to run around their backhand or to hit an honest-to-God backhand return with the guy in the red shirt jumping all around up there.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a kicker really for rec players, for the rest of us, I think the reality is when we serve, we're not trying to hit the big bomb flat serve that gets right into the heart of someone's strike zone that is, really not that tough to return. I mean, really one of the benefits of being able to play a high quality topspin second serve is that it bounces up and out of the returner's strike zone. Doesn't mean that they can't go over there and take a good swing at it, but it's just not in the classic strike zone for the returner. So, the difference in my mind between a normal topspin second serve and a kicker is the kicker just gets up and out of that strike zone a lot faster.
Yeah. And sometimes it's even a serve that's not hit quite as fast. It's the spin that makes it difficult rather than the speed.
And I think as we get older, Jim, I think that's really a good point. I mean, I know for me with my second serve kicker, it's much more now about trajectory and having the ball really come down. I mean, I think of Corky Meinhardt a little bit, which is a name from the past, with a guy who really had a very, very slow second serve, but had a very high trajectory. And the quality of that second serve, or the degree of difficulty, was that it had a major upward bounce.
Corky Meinhardt.
Yes. Okay. Now, so let's talk about the fake poach. And by definition, the fake poach, in my mind, is basically just one step to the middle of the court, and then you come back to where you originally started. And the whole idea, I think, the initial purpose of the fake is to be a visual distraction in that returner's kind of visual landscape. Would that be kind of a down and dirty definition of a fake poach?
Yeah, or perhaps succinct. I think that the key word that I see is that you've got visual distraction, but it's seen by the returner. And I think a lot of people that do the fake are doing it too late, so that if they do it after the serve bounces, by that time the receiver is more or less locked into the ball. But if they're doing it before the ball bounces, there's all kind of problems created by the guy in the red shirt.
Okay, so then let's talk about the combination. The combination of the server with the high bouncing, high quality topspin second serve is one level of degree of difficulty. So we talked about, Mac, we're getting the serve to bounce up and out of the return to strike zone. But then you add the visual distraction layer of the partner up at net with the fake poach. It's pretty tough for that returner to be able to really get a real clean cross court, swing at the ball. And frequently what I see, at all levels of rec tennis, whether it's 5-0 or, all the way down, is if the timing, and you brought up a good point, a lot of players time the fake poach too late to where the returner doesn't get a chance to see it. And my experience has been that if you have a nice high bouncing kick, second serve, even a first serve, partnered with that fake poach, is that frequently you get either a short lob, a chunked miss hit, but something that the net player can kind of go ahead and clean up.
Yeah.
So let's talk. So now that we've got the definition in there, I want to talk about the player roles. And the server has really got to be thinking that this is really an opportunity for them to hit a type of serve that is going to enable their partner. And this is not going to be a flat, big serve that's going to kind of be a put-away winner type of ace. This is really going to be something that is going to enable the partner. And so you've really got to have a full commitment to spin. talk about that mindset, Mac, when when you set up as a server, in terms of, and I think you brought it up earlier, that lots of times the quality of that high bouncing serve is much more about much more about the spin and not so much the speed of the incoming serve.
Well, I think that, again, I don't want to be so complimentary, but the yellow line you're showing now is actually in some ways pretty darn close to what's occurring. I mean, the other thing is, because it's slower and spinning, you can have a steeper down angle as it crosses the net. So doubles is about communicating and making plays with your partner. And so many times, if you've got a good volleyer, it's on the server to say, okay, I can do this. I could almost imagine the opposite, whereas if you had a partner that really wasn't helping you at the net, or unable to, that you might try more flat serves and bombs. But Chet Murphy at Cal used to say, you're playing good doubles when your partner says, man, I'm hitting good volleys today. And you say a version of that. But so this is a commitment, and it's also a commitment in practice to practice this. At our club, most people practice their first serve. Everything's flat, and then the second serve isn't. So you've hit the nail on the head about two things that go together: somebody who can spin it and someone else who can fake, and, as you say, clean up the mess.
Well, and I think also, as a server, that you're totally committing to the spin, and that if this is a planned play, and if you play with someone long enough, lots of times you just know that they're going to fake poach, even if they don't go. It's always going to be a fake. It's never going to be just a stand still. And so you can anticipate that if you're going to spin this thing in, the fake's going to be there. You've got to obviously start forward, because it is a serve and volley play. But the other point I want to make here is that you've got to be aware of that returner thinking, you know what, here comes a heavy second serve, topspin, high bouncing serve in. There's a lot of visual distraction. My safest shot is going to be a lob.
That's right.
And so the server has really got to make sure that they honor that split step as they move forward, because really, I think it's their responsibility. If I've got my partner up there and I'm saying, look, I'm going to throw in the kicker, I want you to fake. What I'm saying is that anything other than a short lob, I'll cover behind you. So the server's really got to be looking to make sure that split step helps them cover that deep lob if the returner can hit it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's talk about the net player, the net partner. You brought up a good thing there, Mac, about practice, and that not only do players not practice their heavy topspin second serve enough, a kicker, but they don't do it in kind of partnership with a regular partner, and to where that regular partner now can start to really get a feel for what's the timing, what's the quality of my partner's second serve, and as well as I do, you can play with different partners. And if you're up at net, the timing as to when you throw in that fake so that the returner really gets a chance to see the fake is going to be slightly different depending on who your partner is for that day. So
yeah.
I think that the word you brought up is practice. And yeah, I mean, you and I know probably as well as anyone that inspiring our students to go out in the practice court and tinker with this stuff is really a challenge, because it can seem like it's boring, but geez, I mean, the payoff when the two of you guys are practicing, one person's serving the kicker, the other person's practicing the timing of the fake, once you get in the match, it just gives you so much more confidence. So, guys, what I'd like to do right now is to take any questions. We've gone through quite a bit of content here. We've defined kind of what a kick serve is. We've defined what a fake poach is. We've talked about the roles of the players. If you've got any questions right now for either myself and or for Jim, go ahead and type it into your questions text box there. And, I will start looking for those questions. Let's see, who do we have here? Okay, so Jim, I'm going to let you answer this question. This question is from Robin. and I'm going to read it verbatim. So you're advocating that the fake starts earlier than a poach per se? Question mark. For the latter, you don't want the returner to see you go, so you wait until they start the swing on the return. Mac, have you got any advice for us as to? I think that we're all agreeing, yes, the fake poach, we want the returner to see the fake. We want them to at least see the first part where they see that jab step out towards the middle. Ideally, a fake shows at least that, and at best, what it doesn't show is you coming back towards your alley, and the returner now thinks, aha, the net player has moved out to the middle, they're poaching too soon, I'll go up the line, and then you've now come back, and you can pick off that volley. But Jim, talk about the timing of when you're going to poach. Is there a general time when you like players to actually move on it?
That's a good question, and my hunch, my feel for this is that the poach is a hair later, and the movement is quicker. But to me, if you see even in this diagram where you show the bounce and the ball coming up off the court, I think the receiver is more or less unsighted after the bounce as regards the net person, and is more sighted of the red shirt before the bounce.
I agree.
But I think you can even take it a step further, and I had a partner, Juan Weiss, that used to do this with me, is after he served a game and we're sitting on a changeover or walking, he would ask me what the numbers were. And it took me a while to get comfortable with this. And I was supposed to be able to say, well, Juan, in the deuce court, the guy made all his forehands and missed one backhand. And in the ad court, the guy moves or steps around. In other words, the server's working so hard to control things, the net person can really become a captain where they're saying, okay, Brent, I see this guy's in a certain ready position when you toss it, but I see him move when you're in your motion and you don't see him move. So I think that you add sort of a level of another deeper level here that says, I notice this guy's very conservative when he's returning from behind, so that if we're serving at 30-15 or 40-30, then I think we'd be more prone to poach. It's so you can really play this to the score, but the simple answer is I think the poach is a hair later, and the fake is definitely a hair sooner.
Right. So I think, Robin, to answer your question, do you go as they're making contact? I mean, it kind of depends because, and I think, Jim, what you're talking about is if that returner, as the toss goes up, and this is what I do, and I think this is what you do as well, as I see, if I'm returning serve and as the server is going through their tossing motion, they're no longer looking at me. They're starting to look up to see where the toss is going to end up. That's when I step forward, primarily because I want to get some forward momentum moving in against the return. So it could be that, as the net player, you've really got to think about where that returner is going to actually make contact with that serve. And the timing could be a hair earlier if, in fact, they take a really big step or two forward to make contact with the serve. So, my best advice is I always, when I play someone I don't know, I've never played against them before, I always show, for the first game, maybe game and a half, I show a lot of fake poaches because I want them, number one, to see that I'm trying to control their visual landscape or trying to distract. And then number two, I'm really trying to get a feel for what their tendencies are. And if I just stand there and don't do anything for the first couple of games, I just don't feel as much in control. So what I always advise is, look, you got to show the fake poach first. You got to show it right from the get-go. And, if nothing else, you're providing that visual distraction that is probably going to create some unforced errors. But if nothing else, it helps out your serving partner because if the returner is watching you out of their peripheral vision, their swing speed is going to naturally slow down. They're not totally visually locked in the ball where they can just unload. So I like to show a fake poach, if nothing else, just to make the return not hit as well, even if it goes back cross court to my partner. Max, so Here's another one from Jim. Jim asks, Netman, should he start his fake when he hears the serve being hit, when he hears contact on the serve?
I think that's because certainly that would totally be seen by the receiver. I mean, I think if you did one on the sound of the hit, you could even put a fake in and then poach.
Right. No,
a lot depends on the speed of the serve and how much time you have to see all this. And then even you made a great comment, and I would encourage all of you guys that know Brent to really get comfortable with this term he used about, Brent, you said you move forward so you can be against the ball. And I think that when a receiver is not against the ball, the net person has so much darn time.
right.
And that's the key to your system, is that you're taking everybody's time away, not by hitting the ball big, but just by playing it early all the time.
Right.
Well,
Okay. Okay, I'm going to add this. This is from Steve Mac, and I'm going to let you address this one. I'm going to read it verbatim. I can never understand how the ball bounces the opposite way, which is beautiful, but I can't quite get that great bounce the opposite way. And I think what he's talking about is that part of the definition of the kick serve?
and who asked that?
Steve Lewis.
Steve, from where?
I don't know where Steve's from.
All right. Well, Steve, let me try to make a quick answer. If you have pure 6 to 12 topspin hitting exactly up the back of the ball, then the ball jumps up and stays in the line of flight of the serve. If you have any left to right swing action as you're coming up against it, some use a clock, but if you've got any left to right as you're about to hit the ball, then it jumps up and to the right. And that used to be called an American twist. I think that for most people, a simple topspin kicker is going to get the ball up and out of the strike zone. And if you aim it correctly, you're going to give the guy a backhand that he really can't run around. My thought is that you can hit the extreme kicker, call it American twist, but that takes a lot more work in the legs and the abdomen and the lower back. And I'm not against that by any means, but I think people have to really know what they're in for if they're trying to learn that. So I often prefer the two versions being a side spin serve or a top spin serve, and sometimes actually a third, which is an upside spin. But for this diagram, you're wanting the ball in the backhand wing, not the forehand wing. So you don't want any ball breaking back to the left at all.
Right.
Is that close to what you were asking, Steve?
He's going to have to text me that. Or not text
All
me.
right.
He's going to have to write it in the dialogue box.
All right.
As I'm looking for that response from Steve, here's something from Patrick. Jim, we've talked mainly about the second serve, but do you also recommend topspin for the first serve in doubles, or should we try for some more variety there so the receivers don't get settled into a groove?
You're giving this one to me too?
I'll tell you what. I'll let you off the hook on this one, Mac.
I just figured you were waiting for the easy ones.
Well, I'm always looking to you, Mr. Smarty Britches, for the tough ones. You know me.
Well, you go first, and then I'd like to comment as well, actually.
Okay. I think first of all, by definition in doubles, I think what we're really trying to do is get whatever serve we hit out of the strike zone. And whether that means that you hit a flat, a quote-unquote flat serve to a corner, which I think is really tough to do, because we typically don't trust that we're going to get it out there, and we make way too many unforced errors. And so we kind of let that flat one kind of leak back in towards the middle, which gets right into the wheelhouse of the better players. And so I do think spin on just about every first serve. I might not think of kicker, but I'm either thinking of most of the time, I'm going to hit maybe not a kicker, but a three-quarter semi-top that goes to the body. And that's going to be my bread and butter first serve. And then I'll sprinkle in, if that's 70% of the time, then I'll go, 15% with a standard second serve topspin kind of kick serve out wide on the ad side as a righty on my first serve, and I'll also throw in a down the tee slice. But the whole goal for me on this first serve is I'm thinking what serve can I hit that gets out of that returner strike zone and enables my partner to do something. So that's my uneducated or low educated response. Mac, what's your highly educated response?
I think that if players were watching you play and didn't know the score of the game, they would not always know whether it was your first or second serve because they're more similar. And I think the biggest issue for recreational tournament players is how dissimilar their serves are, meaning the tempo is different, the spin is different, the swing path is different. And the problem is if you start missing your first serve and hitting so many second serves, you can lose the rhythm. So I'm totally in favor of putting some amount of spin on all serves. And the best players I ever played against, it was their second serve that bothered me because it was so good. It wasn't, everybody's going to win points on the first. So I think whoever's out there has to make a commitment to have spin on both deliveries. Maybe not as much, but I don't think there's really a flat serve that exists anymore.
Well, I just did my first serve mastery course, which was released a couple weeks ago, and the whole premise of that course is that none of us are tall enough to be able to literally spike a ball straight down from behind the baseline or, without foot faulting, be able to consistently spike it straight down over the top of the net and get it inside the service line. And so you can call it whatever you want, but a first serve has got some amount of spin to solve our two problems, which is, number one, safely up and over the top of the net, and then number two, having it, curve back down inside that service line. So I totally agree with you, Jim. I think, first and second serves, they're just different variations of spins. And let's take one more question. And then I want to ask you about your great new course that you've got, Master the Kick Serve 2. You brought up, well, here, I'm going to read this, and this is from Jeffrey. This is more of a comment than a question, but let's go ahead and we'll add our 2 cents in after I read it. Along with the fake poach and whereby you let the returner see your jab fake, a red shirt is very helpful, as illustrated in the picture below. Also, I feel that the fake poach continued throughout the match gets into the opponent's head, and they worry about the net man. And Jeffrey, I'll take the first crack at this. There's no question. I play with a few guys, and we just never have a signal, or we never have a play where the net man just stands there. It's either going to be one of three things. It's either going to be a poach, where we do wait until when we think the ball is going to be going cross court, and we get over there. It's going to be a fake poach, which is either to distract or, some false advertising where that returner thinks we're going to poach, but then we come back. And the third one, which is really rarely used, totally underutilized, but to me is the most effective poach to not only win this point that we're in right now, but to get you so many residual benefits for future points, which I think is what Jeffrey's talking about. And you mentioned this, Jim, is the fake early and then go. And that to me is really the most effective poach off that kick second serve, is you have enough time, especially if you know your partner's serve, you've got enough time to be able to show a fake early, come back, and the returner's thinking, okay, well, he's just showed me a fake, that's it, I'm now going cross court, and then you go. And even if you lose that point, I just think you're just totally inside their heads for the rest of the match. Mac, what's your comment on that?
No, yeah, I've been in a match couple of years ago with a friend, Dick Svedman, and we played some guys that were moving so much at the net, and I struggled. I confess, I struggled. The return is more or less I'm very comfortable returning serve, and I was fascinated how hard it was to use your term, to lock in on the ball. And we were able to win, but it wasn't because of any skill I had when returning serve. I mean, these guys were totally influencing me.
Well,
but I know who they are, and I'm going to play them again.
influencing Jim Mclennan. I love it. All right, Matt. So listen, give us a couple minutes. Tell us about your new online course, Master the Kick Serve 2. I know that you released your first of 3 complimentary videos today in kind of the pre-launch series. Tell us first of all what's in this free series of videos you've got, and then talk a little bit about what we're to get and what's this new course going to do for us in terms of that second serve.
Well, I thanks for the opportunity to be in this webinar, and thanks for a few moments of comments here. What I'm trying to do in the instructional series is really introduce a simple way to approach working on your serve. And I think oftentimes coaches, players, books, the game gets way overcomplicated. And I see that when people have a hard time learning or changing. So in the instructional series, I'm talking about really how this serve is very much like a topspin forehand. And much like a topspin forehand that you have to rub up, there's an element on a serve like this where you do not hit it at full extension. And I think that's really, and the video presents it more slowly and accurately than I am saying it, but this is really an up hit.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second. You said something there that is so true, and I just think people just don't get this, is that when you want to play a non-flat, when you want to play an up spin second serve, you don't make initial contact at full extension. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's so important to get in everyone's head, that you don't make contact with your arm and your racket and your wrist completely 100% extended at that moment in time.
Well, depending on how much time we have, I mean, that could be the whole key. I think a lot of times beginners are shown to toss the ball out in front so they can just get a feeling for the rhythm, but they get stuck on how far in front that toss is, and they just can't spin it at all. So even one of the drills that I recommend in the series is that you, much like a golfer, you start taking practice swings without hitting, and you try to make a swishing sound with the racket. But now the trick is, can you reorient your swing so it swishes above you going up as opposed to in front of you going down?
Right.
And I think that a lot of times what you and I and others are working on is trying to help people with a visual image so that in their mind's eye they can see what they're doing. And so I'm trying to combine actual drills with material for their mind's eye so that they really have a sense of what they're doing. I also have got something in there about how when you throw a ball or a football or anything else, there's an action in the arm that I prefer not to call pronation, but that action, which actually we're showing in this still here, is really the key about how you swing up and snap across the ball rather than swing up and snap down. And then finally, and I think this is really the other overlooked key, so maybe we ought to change the term to the overlooked keys to the serve, and that is that there's a rhythm to the toss, and too often people ask questions about, well, how do I hold up my fingers, or what do I do with my elbow? And I don't think any of that matters. I think that when you do this down together, up together rhythm, if you're serving well, it's because you're tossing well. And so there are some specific ways for you to practice that. And so even, I know that you hear people say, well, just go out in the other court and practice your toss. Well, I don't think that works, because since the right arm is swinging with the racket, moving through all these areas, it makes no sense to practice the toss without having the right arm in motion. And so really, using this golfer's analogy, I think you could spend minutes every day, if not hours every month, just standing out there and practicing the swing without a ball so you make it swish. This is fun. I was very lucky. The first coach I had, Blackie Jones, taught all of us how to spin the serve. Many of us from our little neighborhood are all tennis pros now. And so I've always had a feel for the spin serve, but only recently do I think I've gotten a feel for how to help other people do it. So you and I have had very good coaches, and I think I believe some of the supporters you have and that I have sort of seen that we're not the everyday run-of-the-mill tennis pro, and at the end of the day, I'm trying to help people play better, and I know that a spin serve does that.
Okay. Well, listen, I encourage everyone to get signed up for Jim's free video series, and you can do so over at WebTennis.com. As I say that, I'm starting to panic, Mac, that I don't have a post up there at the blog that will give folks that link. So as soon as I shut this down, I'm going to quickly put a post up there with the link to the free videos, how to get signed up. And so give me 10 minutes on that, everybody. Jeffrey, if you're still online and you want to meet over at Sam's or somewhere for a few minutes, I'd like to meet you. Best way to do that, to let me know, is let's see, just send me an email, askbrent@webtennis.net, and I'll see if you want to do that. And Mac, hey man, thank you so much for your time today. I know this course is going to be a huge success. I'm looking forward to the next videos. I think video number 2 is next Monday. You and I are going to do another webcast next Tuesday, where I'm suggesting a drill that I sent you email. I sent you an email. I'm not sure you got that, but it falls in line with what you're talking about with the tossing motion and with throwing, and we might take a look at that. But Jim, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, hope you enjoyed today's webcast. As always, I want to get your feedback. Best way to do it is to go to the blog, and as I said, in the next couple minutes I'll have a post up there, if there's not one already, where you can leave some feedback. What did you like? What do you want to see improved upon? What other topics would you like to see, or would you like to have me tackle? And if we start getting some comments over there, I'm going to ask Jim to come back, take a few minutes and respond to those. So guys, logging off. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for your time today, and we will talk again soon. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.